Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Reachin Reverie. Now, I have a ton to update you guys on, so get comfortable, grab a seat, and get ready. Now, some of you guys might have noticed we didn't post a video last weekend. So the reason why we didn't have a video last weekend is because Luis and we got married. And I told my parents, of course, I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm getting married. And they decided to come and fly out to visit us for the week and get to spend that special time, that special event with us for our wedding day. So my parents, they actually live all the way across the country. They flew out from their little farmhouse in the country of Virginia, and they came out to see us. So that was just so special. We got to spend the weekend with them, and Luis and I had a really special weekend getting married. Luis and I, we've actually been together for over 7 years now, and it was time for us to take that next step. So it was just a wonderful, beautiful, perfect weekend for us. Just having the family over. I haven't seen my mom and dad since my sister's wedding, which was a year and a half ago, just because they live so far away. It's been with COVID, it's just been really hard to see them. So it was amazing. I wasn't gonna waste any time, so we had the whole weekend all to ourselves, and we really got to catch up on everything new and exciting in our lives. And so that's why I didn't have a video last week for you guys. Getting into the spring season, we are going to be very busy with updates and news for you on our gardening space and in our lives here on our little small backyard homestead out here in Western Texas. Now, during this past week, we were really busy catching up with family, getting things done, Luis and I getting married. I did have a little bit of time to do some gardening, however. So let me show you everything that's new and exciting here on our little homestead. I am really excited that my yarrow has finally decided to bloom. This is my second year growing yarrow, and last year it was just in its vegetative state, basically growing these beautiful fern-like leaves, but no flowers. And then this year it decided to bloom, and it is absolutely just spectacular and lovely, and it just makes me so happy seeing this. I personally think that the flowers smell like raw honey, so I'm always smelling them. I actually cut some of these flowers and took them to work, and I put them in a little mason jar at my desk so that I can look at them throughout the day and smell them. And I am not even kidding. These are amazing cutting flowers. I cut them at the beginning of the week, and by the end of the week they looked just as good as the first day I cut them. So they last really long in a vase, and so I'm probably going to continue to cut these and take them to work to make my little desk look prettier, just because I know typically when you cut flowers, they put off more blooms. You can see all of these little fern-like stems are producing new flower buds. So this is just going to be completely full of really beautiful honey smelling flowers. In this long garden bed, I also just sprinkled in a ton of random flower seeds, and I'm hoping that we'll get some variety of nice, beautiful pollinators growing up in this space. I think that will just give it an extra pop of color, bring in more pollinators for our vegetables, and just really make me happy, because flowers make me really happy. In this spot I have coming back, this is the second year again as well. This is my Salvia blue sage, and these are really pretty. I think they're already doing so much better even than they were last year. Last year we got a couple shoots of flowers. This year you can already see there are so many more coming in. In addition to this blue sage salvia, I also went ahead and bought some other colors. I think I have like red that I also threw in here direct sown, so I'm hoping that those will come up and add more colors of the same type of plant into this gardening space. Coming back this year, we have, let's see, this actually looks like calendula. This, I'm not really sure what it is. Some of these might be more of that Salvia blue sage. We have cilantro. I didn't plant cilantro this year This is a volunteer plant. A volunteer is basically when you grow a plant in a prior season, it's able to mature and go to seed, and then the offspring of that original plant grows on its own. Basically like born in the wild. It wasn't planted by a gardener. It grew from a previous season. So I had cilantro in this area last year, and we have some cilantro coming back. I have some seedlings that I planted as I was thinning out plants, which include some marigolds, a little purple basil back there that are doing pretty good. All of these green random shoots are either reseeds from or volunteers, or there's something that I broadcasted. So a little surprise plant. This down here to me looks like maybe catnip. Catnip I planted over there last season, so I didn't throw any catnip in here this year, so it would be a volunteer that made its way all the way over here. And then on the end we have poppies. Now I broadcasted poppies over here in the middle of the winter or late winter, and I'm not really sure what variety this is because I threw down 4 or 5 different varieties of poppies, so it could be any number of poppies. In the back I have some peas that I just randomly threw out here, and this is chamomile, and this is a little carrot. I was pulling up some carrots the other day and I accidentally pulled up this little one that wasn't mature, and so I stuck him in the soil here because the soil stays pretty moist, and he's doing pretty good, so we might get a little carrot out of him. I have never been a huge fan of raw carrots. I typically like my carrots cooked or in a soup. My favorite way to eat carrots is to actually roast them in like olive oil, a little dash of salt and pepper, and at the end, right before they're ready, I drizzle on some honey with orange juice, and that is my favorite way to eat carrots. So I'm not a huge fan of raw carrots, at least I didn't think I was, and it turns out that I'm just not a fan of store-bought carrots, because I pulled out one of my little carrots and I ate it, and it was amazing. Just the best thing ever. Let me show you. So I have these are some carrots. Let's see, I've been pulling out the ones on the edge. Just gonna randomly pull out one of these edge carrots. Oh, look at that. He's still little. But look at that homegrown carrot right there. These are amazing tasting, just absolutely delightful. I could eat these raw by themselves all day long. Let me show y'all briefly the winter garden, which is starting to peter out. I know this over here is my broccoli. I've been showing y'all all winter long, and I've actually given up and went ahead and pulled out one of the broccoli plants that pretty much produced nothing. And we have a kohlrabi that's flowering. The only reason I've left this here is to help attract pollinators, feed the bees, things like that, because overall it never produced any real substantial kohlrabi for us. So I'm just gonna let this flower, and I'm not even gonna collect the seeds. I'm probably gonna pull this out when the flowers die back. Now this is early purple sprouting broccoli, which I did allow to flower because I just thought this was the best tasting broccoli I've ever had, and I wanted to have more seeds for next year. So I let it flower, and now it's going to seed, and I'm letting this plant die back. And once the plant starts to dry, I will pull the whole plant out and hang it and let it continue to dry, and then I will harvest seeds from these little purple seed pods. And that is how we're gonna save seed from our broccoli. In this area, we already showed you the carrots, but I have radishes that I am letting go to seed. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually going to harvest their little bean-like pods. And I'm harvesting these while they're green because I am going to use them to cook with. I think that these are amazing tasting. It's kind of like a green bean, but they have like a spicier flavor, and they're great in stir fry. So that's my plan for these. I'm just gonna let these all flower out. They're already a little too big. If you were to try to harvest the radishes, then they would end up being pithy, a little woody, and not to mention the roly-polies are already starting to eat our radishes, and we've even found some roly-polies inside of our radishes that we've harvested. So not eating the roots on these radishes, we are going to be eating their little bean-like pods. I do have a couple of seedlings that I transplanted out here when I was thinning, like some basil. This is a pink senorita zinnia, and I'm hoping that as I pull out all of the winter stuff, these summer plants will have more room to grow and thrive. I have a little marigold that's hanging in there in the back. And then I have some strawberries. I'm waiting to transplant these. I'm planning on putting these in my green stock, but look at this. We are already having some strawberries starting to ripen and more little ones coming in, so that's really exciting. Back here we have more cauliflower, which are starting to produce heads. My black king pansies are doing good. They're starting to get more purple and less black colored as the temperature heats up. And I've already saved some seeds off of this plant. Really like it. My shallot is doing good. I have some shallots growing down there. And then I'm really excited about my artichoke, which I started in the fall, winter of last season, and it's already forming a head on there. I think there's actually 2 heads, if you look really closely, 2 flower heads on this amazing artichoke. I cannot be more excited. Artichokes are my favorite vegetable, guys. Now I did forget to mention, let me show you what I've already direct sown. So in this garden bed, I've already sown my winter squash. On this end, just kind of in between these flowers, I started Lady Godiva, which is a type of pumpkin that doesn't have a casing on the seed, so it creates like little pepitas. And then in the middle area right here, I started my Seminole pumpkin, where it gets just really sunny and hot. And then on the end, where there's more moisture in the soil because we have a slow leak, a little drip on our faucet, this area stays a little more moist. I planted the Jarradale pumpkin, which is a blue-gray colored pumpkin. I grew Jarradale last year, and it took the entire season before it even started trying to produce fruit. And at that point it was too late to ripen, and it really struggled in the heat. So I'm hoping this area is going to be the most shaded and moist area that I'm going to have the Jarradale. The Seminole pumpkin likes heat, and then the Lady Godiva will be in a hot area, but it's already going to have a little bit more shade from these mature plants that are around it. I'm really excited to quickly show you all my back garden because it looks a lot different in the week since y'all have seen it last. So let me take y'all back here and show you what we've done in the back garden. All right, everybody, we're in the back garden. I have decided to throw mulch down around all of these bare spaces, and I think it looks really good, you guys. I am looking at nice, clean, mulched pathways. Now this area looks pretty plain right now as far as green goes, but there's actually a lot of life and a lot of potential brewing just beneath the soil in this garden space. In this area, I've actually already direct sown dragon's egg cucumber. It's a little white, round, like egg-shaped cucumber, which is gonna grow up here. In this side, I've already direct sown pickling cucumber. I believe it was Muncher. And then I have Kajari melons that I've direct sown. We have Armenian yard-long cucumbers and Moon and Stars watermelon that have already been direct sown. Now when I say direct sown, all that means is I took the seed and I stuck it in the ground and I've been watering it, and it is going to grow up without being started in a greenhouse or in a cup. It's just put in the ground, ready to grow. So I put those in the ground probably three or 4 days ago, and I've just been coming out here and making sure that the soil stays relatively moist. In the back, I've already sown my Charente melon in this area, and in this bed I do plan on having tomatoes and eggplant, but in this strip right here I went ahead and I sowed Ronde de Nice, which is a stuffing zucchini, and then I also sowed Jaune et Vert Pattison Panache. It's like a patty pan style green and yellow striped squash. So my summer squash are right here. And the back little area right here, I do plan on planting out pollinators, a lot of flowers in this strip in the front, but along the trellis I have a chrysanthemum melon, which is a very small personal sized white type cantaloupe. I put 2 plants on this half, and then on the other half I have pole beans, which includes purple potted and rattlesnake pole beans. I tried purple potted pole beans last year and they dropped all their blossoms basically due to the heat. Now this area is going to get a little bit more relief from the heat due to the shade that it's going to get from the pecan tree in the middle of the summer. So I'm optimistic that we're going to have better success with purple potted. And then I went ahead and, as an insurance policy, also bought rattlesnake pole beans, which are going to be in here. Rattlesnake pole beans are a little more heat tolerant. So fingers crossed, I'm hoping we're going to get some pole bean production this year, which would make me really happy. Now these chickens, they've had a really good week. They were spoiled rotten when my parents came. My dad kept feeding them pecans and they absolutely love pecans. We get them falling from the trees, the pecans, and whenever you step on a pecan, the chickens will run over and they'll grab the pecan and take off, and they just eat the inside. They won't eat the shell, which is really neat. And the chickens actually also know if the pecan is good or not. If you were to step on a rotten pecan, they wouldn't even run over. They know the sound of a crunched rotten pecan versus a fresh, amazing, delicious, ripe pecan. So that's pretty interesting. Let me show you what my dad was doing all week. He was spoiling these chickens rotten. And I actually try not to do this because if I start stepping on pecans, then they will start following me around, girls. They will start following me around and pecking at my feet, demanding that I keep stepping on pecans. So let me show you. Girls, they already know I have one in my hand. Let me come over here. I'm gonna step on a rock. So, there they go. And here come all the rest of the chickens. And they will eat that. So we've had very happy chickens this week because I think my mom and dad had a lot of fun hanging out here with the girls and feeding them pecans from our pecan tree. Now I forgot to show you while I was in the back garden bed, but I do have some flower production in this pot back here where I sowed bachelor buttons and poppies. So we should be having some flowers popping open any day now. See what I mean? You step on one pecan and then you're dodging chickens. The rest of the time you're out in the chicken yard stepping very carefully because chickens will be underfoot. Now this wouldn't be a garden update without looking at our seedlings. So let me show you how those seedlings are doing before I share with you one last update. Here they are. This is the remainder of what I have to plant out in the spring garden. Now it is late afternoon, so they are starting to get afternoon shade, but I have begun the process of hardening off my seedlings in preparation for getting them ready to be transplanted into their forever homes in our garden beds. Hardening off is a must when you start your plants early for the spring. What hardening off means is that you slowly, over a period of about a week to 2 weeks, where you gradually increase the amount of natural sunlight and wind, weather exposure that you provide to your plants. So all of these plants started out their lives in my greenhouse, protected from the elements, but in being protected from the full rays of the sun and all of the wind, rain, everything like that, your plants don't become as hardy as they need to be to survive in the wild in their raised garden beds. So you just have to do this if you start. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. When you're getting ready to plant out your spring seedlings that you started, you have to harden them off. So what I'm doing is I started out for a couple of hours a day, maybe like I would take them out in the mornings and at lunchtime put them back in the greenhouse. You set them out in an area where they have full sun. Maybe at first you can start by having them in partial shade, just so that they can experience life outdoors. And after a couple days, they're doing good, you increase the amount of time that they're outside until right before you're able to plant them out, you're having them outside from sun up to sundown. I've also, on warmer nights, been leaving my greenhouse open just so that they can get used to nighttime temperatures. Now, when I say warmer temperatures, the temperatures need to be above 45, 40 for me to feel comfortable leaving these guys exposed, because they are still frost tender. If you get a night where it's going to get below freezing, you close up that greenhouse or you bring your plants inside, because you don't want to have all of this hard work washed down the drain. A little bit tedious, but it's 100% necessary hardening off your plants. So I'm going to start at one end and go down, and I'm going to update you guys on how all of these little seedlings are doing. In this first tray, I have white borage and I have my trailing nasturtiums. These trailing nasturtiums have struggled quite a bit with leaf borers, which is like a little teeny tiny bug that eats, I kind of think of them as like leaf termites. They eat little trails on your leaves. Really, the only thing that I know that gets rid of these guys is to just simply pluck off the leaf that's affected. The thing is, some of these plants don't have that many leaves, so I've kind of been waiting for them to develop a little more before I pull all of them off. I actually pulled off quite a few leaves that had leaf borers on them. It's not going to really hurt the plant too much if there's only a couple leaves that are affected. Now, if your whole plant has leaf borers on them, you're going to have issues. But that's something that I've seen more of this year that I really didn't see a whole lot of last year. So once this plant grows a little more leaves, I will pick them off. But you can see I've already been picking off leaves, so I don't want to pick too many off at one time. This tray is my do as I say and not as I do tray. If I paid a little bit more attention and maybe prepared a little bit more, all of these would be up potted by now. These are very much badly wanting to be up potted, and some of them are suffering a little bit from not having the space for their roots to grow. So I basically, in the size of my greenhouse, I just don't have anywhere to put any more trays of seedlings. So all of these are getting slightly neglected, and I'm hoping they can last. I want to plant this tray out into the garden on Wednesday, and I'm hoping that they will thrive once they have more space to grow. So this pot, don't listen to me, but let me tell you what we got going on in here. I have heavy hitter okra, which is doing pretty good. It's a little leggy, but I'm planning on planting these out by Wednesday. Today is Saturday, so I'm hoping they'll hang in there for a few more days as we're hardening them off. I have sweet alyssum, which is already deciding to flower. We have dandelions, cosmos, some flowers, I think forget-me-not, Gilia globe, delphinium, and let's see what else we got. We have some mint and thyme, catnip, cilantro, chamomile, Mexican mint, and a few others. I'm really excited about cardoon. Cardoon is a wild relative to the artichoke, and it's really neat because you harvest the stems instead of the flowers on the thistle. So that is going to be really exciting for me to try. I'm excited to try out the process on growing cardoon from start to finish. So overall, I'm a little disappointed in myself for not having the resources and space to up pot these sooner, but it is what it is. So if they can make it to Wednesday, I'm hoping I will just plant all of them out in the garden. They'll have more space to thrive, more space for their roots to grow, and I'm hoping that that'll be okay. that they'll get bigger once they have more room to grow. In this area right here, in this tray, we have more nasturtiums. Over here are the trailing nasturtiums, which will grow up to 10 feet long. I'm gonna grow these on a trellis. Over here are the dwarf nasturtiums, which typically don't get bigger than about a foot, and they don't climb. So these would be better in as like a footer, a border on the edge of a garden bed. So I'm hoping to plant these either in pots or in maybe that space in front of my pole beans. We have quite a few different varieties with varying colors of flowers. I think it's so cool, the different phenotypes on the same type of plant. Like we have pink stems, we have variegated leaves, we have really big long leaves, and all of these have different colored flowers depending on what kind of nasturtium they are. Nasturtiums have to be, hands down, my favorite flower, just because of all the different combinations and colors and different types they come in, as well as all of the different nutritional properties that nasturtiums have. This is a little pepper. What are you, lilac? Oh, he's a cayenne pepper. We have a cayenne pepper. Over here, this is a very happy pepper. We have another cayenne pepper. He's doing really good. And in the back, I think these are lilac bells. Yeah, lilac, this is a purple bell pepper. We have a tray of tomatoes. I have quite a few varieties of tomatoes here, and this is my one lonely red Malabar spinach that germinated. And my goodness, I really wanted to grow a lot of Malabar spinach this year. I'm hoping if that one survives, we'll have one. I have a variety of tomatoes growing over here, and it's so neat to see how the different varieties are doing. This is my Dr. Weish's, having a late start. Both of these started off really late. I planted these seeds the same day I planted these seeds. And it's so interesting to see how the different varieties pretty much all came up on the same day as the rest of their variety. My Dr. Witchy's, Dr. Weish's, however you prefer to say it, having a little bit of a late start, considering it's gonna have the biggest tomatoes out of all of the varieties. So it's taking its time to grow pretty big. Really like how my blue beauties are doing, growing really nice and tall, pretty sturdy plants. I have a whole tray of peppers right here, and I'm still getting germination. So this one's off to a late start. I think this is my albino bell. I grew this last year, very productive, but it's kind of like a smaller miniature sized fruit on that pepper plant. We have habaneras, we have cubanelles, peperoncinis, buena mulatas. I love seeing the different phenotypes on these. Like we have purpley leaves on the buena mulata, which is going to have like purple long skinny peppers, and then all of the habaneras are kind of short and squat, really cute. In this next tray I have a few of calendula, and I have a lot of marigolds and some basil. So these marigolds are all different varieties. Some of them are already trying to flower. Can you see that? Wow, he's already ready to pop open a flower. And then the basil, I just think this is so neat. We have dark purple opal basil, and then I have a generic green basil. I'm not sure what variety the green is, just green basil, and then dark purple opal basil. And they are doing pretty good. The calendula is hanging in there. It's more of a cool weather flower, but they're doing all right. And then some of my marigolds are getting a little sunburned. You can see the white on the leaves, but I mean, it's part of the process, hardening them off. They're gonna have a little bit of a reaction, but generally marigolds are pretty hardy. I think they're gonna hang in there. I have another tray of tomatoes, and in this tray I also have some eggplants. So in this cup right here, let me show you, this is so interesting. I paid close attention, and I only planted one seed per cup on all my tomatoes. My tomatoes are precious to me, and I don't like thinning out tomato seedlings. I just feel like with as big as they get and with the amount of production on them, it seems so wasteful to me, and everybody has their own way, but I choose personally to only put one seed per cup if I can help it. And so this plant, this Snowball Tomato, came out of one seed, and it looks like it's a conjoined twin. Really crazy. Now, the thing about tomatoes is they take a lot of energy and nutrients out of the soil, and I'm afraid that if I leave this as a conjoined twin and plant it in the garden, one or two or both, this whole plant is going to suffer and it's not going to grow to its potential. So the best thing to do would be to cut off the little one and grow the big one. So my plan is, once it gets big enough, which is probably right about now, I'm going to cut off this little stem right at the soil, and I'm going to try to propagate it. Tomatoes are pretty cool, and you can cut off stems and they can regrow roots from the stems and you can get more plants. So I'm hoping I'm going to propagate the little one and let the big one have more room to thrive in its own space, and I'll have a second tomato plant out of that little conjoined one. That's super interesting. I've never seen anything like that in a tomato plant. But little Snowball Tomato, he's already pretty cool. Snowball Tomato produces white tomatoes, so he's already a pretty cool little marvel of a variety on his own. I have some pekin peppers hiding down there. Pekin peppers grow really tiny peppers that are extremely spicy. And then we have late bloomers. I started these really late. I got a last minute seed order from Baker Creek and decided just to start some seeds anyway. I have Juana's orange amaranth, orange peach tomato, a spoon tomato, and a shishito pepper started. And then in this last tray right here, I have mainly pollinators and edible plants. So we have lemonade cosmos, orange cosmos. Isn't this interesting how different these cosmos are? This is the same type of flower, just different variety. Orange cosmos has an orange flower. Lemonade cosmos has like a creamy yellow flower. I have another calendula. This is peppermint stick balsam, a really beautiful, edible, tropically looking plant. I have pink senorita zinnia. I wish I grew more of these. I'm just gonna probably sprinkle more seeds around and hope they come up. I have some white borage, which is just like normal borage, except the flowers are white. We have fennel, which tastes like licorice. Butterflies, caterpillars, love fennel. And then, what is this? This looks like safflower. And that's what we got going on. So my goal for this week moving forward is to get all of these started seedlings hardened off and ready to go get transplanted into the raised garden beds outside. As I'm working on hardening off those seedlings, I am planning on planting bush beans in this garden space. I do plan on putting tomatoes along this trellis in the center, but on either side of the trellis, I'm gonna do bush beans. And then I may put something in this corner, either a borage or maybe that Juana's orange amaranth. I'm also thinking about going ahead and planting out in my green stalk. In my green stalk, I'm gonna put those 2 strawberry plants that I have started in solo cups, as well as more bush beans and some herbs. So I already told you guys that Luis and I got married this past weekend. Now, I didn't tell you that my amazing sister Lauren, thank you Lauren if you're watching this, thank you so much. My amazing sister Lauren bought us a wonderful wedding gift, and she read my mind because I was already thinking about trying this out for myself. My sister Lauren got Luis and I a Grow Oya for our garden this year. Now, I'm not sponsored by Grow Oya. My sister got this for us as a wedding gift, but she really inspired me. Grow Oya is a great gardening tool in that you basically bury this clay pot underground and you fill up the pot with water, and it waters your plants, it conserves water, and I think that that's going to be really cool this year. My plan is to bury this one right here in this area, and I'm going to grow okra in this garden bed. Now this medium-sized Grow Oya, it is good for up to a 3-foot by 3-foot garden bed. This garden bed is about 3.5 feet by 2 feet, So I'm hoping that that'll work out. I may have to water on the edge, but it should water all of the okra in the central part of this gardening space. My sister completely inspired me, and I decided to buy 4 more of these Growoyas to plant in my back garden bed. I'm gonna plant 4 of those, 2 in each of my raised garden beds. And that should help save time watering. It should help save water, especially where we are in the desert, the Chihuahuan Desert of Western Texas. So I have them coming in the mail. My 4 shouldn't be here till Monday, so I'm going to be making a video coming up showing you how I install those and my plan for how I'm going to use those this gardening season. Waiting on our Growoyas to come in is going to postpone us transplanting out our started seedlings by a few days, but hopefully midweek or maybe next weekend we'll have those seedlings in the ground. I do want to wait until my Growoyas arrive on Monday because I don't want to disturb the plants too much once they're in the ground. So we're going to bury it in the ground and plant the seedlings around it. But this is so cool, you guys. So you see, it's just like a little clay pot with a silicone lid, and you bury it basically up to the neck, and then you just fill this with water, and the water seeps through the porous walls of the clay pot. And I just think that is going to be so cool. They say that you can reduce watering by around 70% because you lose a lot of your water. It gets wasted through evaporation and runoff. So I think that this is going to be great for our desert climate. I think that it will help keep the roots moist longer. And they say that over time, the fibrous roots will end up growing towards the Growoya, and it just makes watering your plants so much more efficient. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today as I updated you on everything that's new and exciting in our life here on our little mini homestead. Stay tuned for that next video. We're going to talk about using the Growoya on our little homestead. Also stay tuned because I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and upload our wedding ceremony. It's only 4.5 minutes. It was very small and intimate, but it was perfect for us. We didn't need a big wedding because we are trying so hard to save up for our future and our dream and our homestead. And I think that however you want to do a wedding is the way that you should do a wedding. And for Luis and I, that meant just having a special day and getting married. The 2 of us, having my parents there made it extra special. We had the dogs and Luis's sister-in-law, Jeanette, come as well. But just having it small was enough for us. And I think that that was the best thing we could have done, because all of the money that would have gone towards a one-day party, inviting everybody, you know, making a big ordeal out of it, all of that money that would have gone into a huge wedding is going to be saved for our future homestead and our plans. Like we've been saving up for a house for years, and Luis and I, we've been together for over 7 years, and we hadn't gotten married yet because we couldn't justify planning something that expensive and when we have this huge dream for our future. So that was a personal choice. Like I said, we don't look down on anybody who wants a big wedding, but for us, it felt right to have something small and intimate, something that didn't cost a lot of money, and we couldn't be happier to start this next chapter in our lives. And I just think that it was nice. So we are going to upload that video. It's really short and sweet. You blink, you're gonna miss it. But it was perfect. It was a perfect day to have a wedding. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date with all of the new and exciting things happening on our little homestead out here.